Welcome to the Wizarding Wireless Network podcast with me, AJ.
And me, Will.
Together, we will be bringing you our no-holds-barred thoughts, opinions, and detailed analysis on all things Wizarding World. So, with that in mind, grab yourself a glass of fire whiskey and settle into this week's episode of the WWN.
The Wizarding Wireless Network with your hosts AJ and Will, streaming to you on all of your favourite podcast providers and over on YouTube. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about Chapter 15, The Forbidden Forest.
Ooh. Spooky. Oh, I love this chapter. I absolutely do.
I mean, we're not going in there. Students aren't allowed.
That's what you think, son. I absolutely adore this chapter purely because you can see the absolute fear in Malfoy's eyes and face. You can just feel it coming through the pages. I find it absolutely hilarious.
It's such a good kind of comeuppance for him because of him being, up until this point, really arrogant, really testy to all three of them, to most of the Gryffindors, and such on a kind of arrogant level that it's almost like, okay, you aren't better than everyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
It just grounds Malfoy's character a bit more, and it's not limiting him to just a bully at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like it gets to the deepest root of his fears because, I mean, on the outside, we just sort of get told at the very beginning of the welcome feast that, you know, the Dark Forest is strictly forbidden to all students. And you're sort of left to your imagination as to what's actually in there. But as we know for this chapter, the further that we get into it, we start to see some of the dangers and other things that kind of lurk in the forest. But shall we talk about how they actually got to the forest in the first place? Why are they going there?
So, as we found out, obviously, from the end of the last chapter, Harry and Hermione both stupidly, God knows what was going through their head, managed to leave their invisibility cloak at the top of what we now find out was the tallest astronomy tower. So we do find out actually which tower it was.
We do.
Only to be caught by Mr. Filch and brought in front of Professor McGonagall.
Now, two things here that really is evident to me from reading this part of the chapter. McGonagall is not a woman to be trifled with. We always knew that, but the fact that she took, what was it?
150.
Now, did she took 150 points off her own house. But then part of me then thinks to myself, does she take 50 points off of Neville as well?
Yeah, so it's 50 each.
Oh, so it is. Ron isn't there. I keep forgetting that. I do keep forgetting that Ron isn't there.
The movies lied.
It lied. It absolutely lied. But yes, so 150 points in total taken from her own house. I mean, like, that's a savage thing to do.
It's
like absolutely savage.
It's almost like that heartbreaking kind of mum telling you off moment where she's like, I don't want to be doing this, but you're not going to learn if I don't do it.
Yeah, precisely. Part of me thinks, is it a bit too far? I think it was just a little bit too far. But anyway, I'm not head of Gryffindor House, so that's completely her prerogative. But the fact that she then took points off of... Did she take points off of Malfoy? Or did she just give him detention?
Oh, good point. I don't actually know whether she did.
Because in the movie, it just got detention. I don't think he got any points taken off him, you know.
No. So Malfoy just gets detention in the books.
See, that's not fair. McGonagall, you played really... That was very much an own goal. 150 points off of your own house and not to take any off your biggest rival house. Own goal, Minerva. Own goal.
Honestly. You can tell she's a Gryffindor through and through and not Slytherin. She isn't planning.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say I'm a Gryffindor through and through, but even that, I would... You know... jab the knife in a wee bit. You would need to. Do you know what I mean? Just to sort of level the playing field ever so slightly. Ever so slightly.
If it was Snape, honestly, it would be a case of 50 from Malfoy and 150 from Gryffindors. Or if it was 3 of his house, it'd be 50 from his 3 and 50 from their 1.
Yeah. I
So-
don't even think he would take points off his own house. I think he would just say, get back to bed.
Probably get back to bed before anyone else catches you in the corridors.
Literally. Absolutely. Yeah, so as we sort of progress on through the chapter, there's a part in it where Hermione, it says here that Hermione was absolutely trembling at the thought of getting caught by a teacher. I can only imagine the fear that was going through her, because she, is Miss Goody Two Shoes. She also, I mean, this is probably the second time that she had points taken off McGonagall. For
Yes,
the troll,
for the troll.
and then for this.
Yeah.
So she must have been like a bit fuming. She was like, "Why am I in trouble again? Because of you."
Yeah, it's almost like I shouldn't be, like, this is not me, but she feels like she's being dragged into it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Which I guarantee you, I bet this was not on her mood board for going to Hogwarts year 1.
This was not penciled into the diary. This was not
It was
on her
not.
academic year calendar.
It was not. You cannot find a Pinterest pin for this kind of thing. But anyway, as they then progress on into bed and wake up the next morning, Harry then starts to feel the repercussions of his actions, because the Gryffindors don't seem to believe that 150 points have just vanished over the course of a night. And then it starts to talk in a little bit of detail as to sort of the backlash that they felt. Like, during Quidditch, Harry was only really referred to as the Seeker. He even offered to resign from the Quidditch team, but Oliver Wood would hear none of it. He said, what was the point in resigning? Because how are we going to get these points back if we can't win at Quidditch? But the majority of the team were absolutely fuming with him. And I can understand why. I can understand why. And even Hermione, during classes, she was not one for speaking. She was keeping her, voice down. She wasn't answering out in class. She was just working away silently, which must have pained her terribly.
Yeah, I think if you think about the Gryffindor kind of attributes, there's still, I know obviously it's not as kind of evident as it is in Slytherin, but there is that degree of pride. And I think...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Having all of this kind of poor publicity, it's really knocked their pride, their confidence in their abilities. Hermione's worried about how it's going to affect her studies, how it's going to affect her exams. Harry's now kind of thinking, oh, I had everyone kind of looking up to me. I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
And Ron's trying to do his best to console them, because obviously he hasn't been affected. He was in bed. Whereas actually, there's not really anything any of them can do. I think the thing is, I feel the most sorry for Neville out of all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he doesn't necessarily have a leg to stand on, does he?
No, and the thing is, like, he was doing it purely for, like, non-selfish means. He was generally, like, out of bed because he had caught wind that Malfoy had caught wind, and was only trying to then protect them.
Yeah, it was literally just a case of whispers. Do you know what I mean? It was like a rumour started here, a rumour started there, and it just grew arms and legs, and then those arms and legs walked into the path of Professor McGonagall, it would appear.
But in a way, it's Neville's luck that that's what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. If it was going to happen to anyone, it would happen to him. And it did.
It did. Poor Neville. So he is absolutely distraught. He's crying into his pillow, bless him. I definitely agree with what Wood says to Harry in terms of, what's the point of resigning from Quidditch? You're not achieving anything by doing that. Because the only way we're going to get house points back is by winning Quidditch.
Yeah.
So we need you. Stop it.
Stop it.
Just stop. Harry, stop.
No. What's that from? What is that from? Is that from like a YouTube video?
Yeah, it's a Wally cartoons.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I did not care for that cartoon, I must admit.
Oh, I loved it.
No, I'm very much of a Potter Puppet Pals kind of guy. You know, mysterious ticking noise, etc., etc.
And the missing button.
Today I lost a button. Button. Oh, I might need to watch that again. That was really funny. But yes.
I mean, the only thing that was consoling any of them about what had happened was the fact that it was exam season. They could kind of keep their head down, work hard, not kind of interact with people. I don't see how that's any different to what Hermione would have been doing.
Well, I imagine that Hermione would have been doing that anyway, but she would have been letting everyone know that she was doing that.
Fair point. She would have done studying out in the open, had every book around her in like a prayer circle.
Exactly. She would be like, yes, I'm going to the library now. Yes, I've got 12 books for one subject. Yes, I'll have, I mastered the undetectable extension charm when I was 3 years of age because I knew how many books I would need. I'm just letting you all know that. That kind of vibe.
Exactly. So what Harry then finds, he's walking along a corridor and starts hearing some whispers.
That's the wrong book.
Not those type of whispers.
Spoilers.
I was like, AJ, have you read the chapter? And then I suddenly clicked, oh.
Penny in the air, penny dropped.
So you hear some whispers coming from a classroom. Unbeknownst, it is Quirrell's voice.
It is. Now, Professor Quirrell, he seems to be having this one-way conversation with someone that we're not really too sure at this point who it is, but all the signs and red herrings are pointed to Professor Snape. But there's a line in this that Professor Quirrell says, and he just says, no, not again, please. I am desperate to know what happened to him. What was the threat?
See, I think it's the unicorn. I think it's Voldemort saying to him, well, I was going to say asking. Voldemort doesn't ask. What do you mean? He's telling him, we need to go into the forest again tonight to drink unicorn blood. And Quirrell's going, no, not again.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair.
So I think that's kind of what that one-sided conversation is. I mean, it would have been interesting to kind of again, in the films, would have been interesting to have these little tidbits because the only conversation you ever get with Quirrell being kind of not even made innocent is the conversation between Snape and Quirrell outside the library that evening.
Yeah, just the whole intimidation of it. I feel like they could have sort of milked that a lot more because the book certainly does.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it could have really gone full force with actually making Quirrell seem innocent because unless you're really paying attention to the background of the movie, that's when you get your kind of clues. But otherwise, there's nothing to say in the films that Quirrell's innocent. There's no red herring. It's literally the film focuses on it's Snape. Snape's got a cut on his leg. Snape's trying to get past Fluffy. It's really directly trying to make you think about Snape, but it's not trying to move you away from Quirrell.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's where I think the books definitely did this part better.
Mm-hmm.
So interestingly, after Quirrell comes out of the classroom and goes past Harry, Harry notices in the empty classroom that one of the doors on the far end is ajar, instantly jumping to the fact that it's clearly Snape who's exited out the other side. So what does he do?
Tells Ron and Hermione.
Goes back to Ron and Hermione to explain what he saw. They obviously then think that this is Snape having now broken through Quirrell's defences.
Yeah.
So in their eyes, there's no stopping him.
Yeah, no, not at this stage of the game. Like, they're just at this point. I sort of feel like they've resigned to the fact that they know the stone is now going to be unprotected. But then Hermione makes the valid point that they're still fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got that three-headed dog. But as it stands at the moment, they still sort of think, okay, we'll see how they get on. But as it stands, they're kind of screwed.
Yeah. I think Hermione then makes a very good point, actually, during this conversation. And it's been, I think, Adam points out this time and time again when we watch the films. He just goes, why don't they just go to Dumbledore?
Yeah, for sure.
Because again, in the film, there's no reference to going to Dumbledore to kind of explain what they know. It's just a case of, right, we'll solve this mystery on our own. We won't ask for any help. We won't kind of tell any of the teachers. Whereas this, it's literally only kind of a paragraph in the book, just explains why they're not going to Dumbledore.
Yeah. But I mean, in the movie, there was that, like, God, in the movie there was that little scene where when Hagrid tells them how to essentially get past Fluffy, they immediately run to Professor McGonagall and say that they need to speak to Dumbledore now, and she was like, I'm afraid Professor Dumbledore isn't here. He received an urgent call from the Ministry of Magic. Like, very important business.
Mm.
And then, but that was it, so they were just sort of like, right, well, what else can we do? So let's jump through the trapdoor tonight, let's go for it.
No, that still happens in the book. So they still go to Professor Dumbledore after finding out, and Professor McGonagall catches them trying to get into Dumbledore's office.
Mm.
So again, it's that whole thing of waiting till it's too late to actually action anything.
Yeah, it's like the horse is bolted from the stables.
Yeah. I mean, it is very kind of... I think there is a line that Hermione says in the film that kind of helps with this aspect of it. It's the fact that what is the one thing Voldemort always feared? Dumbledore. As long as Dumbledore's around, you're safe.
Yeah.
So I think instead of wanting to tell Dumbledore, Hermione then reiterates that, well, Dumbledore's too smart to let anything like this happen. There's obviously contingencies.
Mm-hmm. There's stuff there's stuff in place to prevent Voldemort from getting the stone. But I mean, this whole overarching thing, the more and more that I think about it, the more that it does sort of make me think. So, like, Snape must have went to Dumbledore with his suspicions about Quirrell. I don't really know if they had fully comprehended that Voldemort was living rent-free at the back of Quirrell's head. But with that being said, I imagine the convo might have been had. It may have been had.
It must have been. I mean, the fact that they put all of those safeties in place, Dumbledore must have known that someone in the castle was infiltrating and trying to steal the stone from inside the castle.
Yeah.
Whether they knew actually Voldemort was rent-free at the back of Quirrell's head or not, they knew that one of them was suspicious and working for him.
Right, I now have just got... I've now just got this image when you were talking about rent-free at the back of the head. I've just got this image of... oh God, who's the Home Secretary?
Well, current Home Secretary?
Yeah. Is it James Cleverly?
Yes.
I've just got images of him coming to Hogwarts and saying, like, get out. You've claimed a legal asylum at the back of this man's head. Get out. In my head, it was
Exorcism.
actually, yeah, like, stop the boats kind of type vibe. Get off his head. That's the image that I've got. But it was Pretty Patel, but then that was like 3 administrations ago. It does make me wonder if the Ministry of Magic has got something like a department like that. Well, I suppose Umbridge, you know, like the Muggle-born registration
Yeah.
department.
And you've got the Magical Transportation Department, where they have to request all the port keys to do long distance travel.
I know this is coming off a little bit off topic here, right? Because I know I'm jumping 4 books ahead, but one of my favourite scenes in The Order of the Phoenix, and I wish they had kept it in the book, is when Dumbledore creates an illegal port key and they're fuming about it. He just creates this port key to get them back to Hogwarts, and they're like fuming, and there's like perspective. Like, come on. I'm actually in the middle of my reread of that. I say
Are
in the
you?
middle, I'm like chapter 4.
You've just started.
Yeah, but to be fair, like, in this book, chapter 4 is like 900 pages in.
That is true. It
'Cause it's
is. It is a beast of a book.
I don't know why.
To be fair, I was thinking about all of this and all of these scenes that we've been going through, and all of these little nuggets of information, the breadcrumbs that we've been talking about throughout this series. How well and how much of it are they going to keep for the TV series?
See, this is the thing, and I've said it time and time again. When the TV show was announced, it's one of these things where you need to deliver on it, because Harry Potter has got one of these. It's a massive fan base, and everybody adores the movies. They adore the books. It's very difficult, I think, to let that image go of Dan, Rupert, and Emma playing Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and everybody else involved in that. And I think if you're going to go down the route of a complete and total new reboot, you need to be loyal to the books. Do not put stuff in this TV show that was not written anywhere in the books just for filler. You have got plenty of stuff to fill.
Yeah. I think what will piss people off more is putting things in and overlooking other things.
Yeah.
If it wasn't in the books, don't add it.
Yeah.
If it's in the books, keep it in. That's
for sure.
They have to do.
I think one of the main things that a lot of people will be definitely like wanting and paying for, especially just because I'm looking at, my copy of Order of the Phoenix in front of me, is Department of Mysteries. I want every single room in that scene.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's so many things, well, throughout the book, Department of Mysteries definitely being one of them, that was so poorly represented in the film versions or completely missed out altogether, that this is the opportunity for people to finally get to see it.
Yeah, for sure. Interestingly, though, the Ministry of Magic is one of my favourite sets that was ever designed.
Oh, 100% same, AJ, honestly. The idea that the new theme park is going to include it.
Let's talk about that. That looks absolutely insane. And I am so excited for it. It's unreal.
Literally,
You're lost for words.
Honestly, if I didn't want to go before, I definitely want to go now. Like, the fact that you can go into the Ministry of Magic, and knowing Orlando, they will make some way that you will come in through like the Flu network, and just like you'll be in the foyer, and just walking around that corner would just be if it is like a full set, I think I'll just end up crying.
I know. I mean, they should have the budget for it. I mean, definitely. But also, as well as that, like, at Orlando, even I mean, I've been very lucky to go to Universal in Shanghai as well, and they are not Shanghai in Japan, and they are absolutely stunning. Like the whole, they've got herbology greenhouses, I think, in Japan. That was really good. Gringotts set, it's phenomenal. But honestly, Orlando is just another level. It is. It's almost. I think it is probably on par with the studio tour in
Mm,
terms of how much effort has gone into it.
yeah. It's definitely on a different scale, but the amount of detail and care that's gone into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I am itching now for a return visit to Orlando. I genuinely am. I'm so excited. Like, I desperately need to go back. We I was going to say something there. Yeah, I feel like if you do, for example, if you go to Disney, right, or not Disney, if you go to Orlando, then if me and you go, we will go to Disney and Universal because so that we've got a mixture of the both. I am
Mm.
not really that much of a Disney fan. I can appreciate it, but just for me, Harry Potter is life. But if we go, 9 times out of 10, you're better off actually just getting a 2 week ticket instead of a 1 week ticket because they sometimes give you like a week free. So the prices are pretty much the same. But after a while, if you do 2 weeks at Disney and Universal, by the end of it, you're a bit knackered. And then you think, okay, I've had my fill of that for a little bit, but I am getting to the stage where I am itching.
Mm. I think I'm
Yes.
exactly well, I would say I'm waiting for a return visit. I haven't even been once.
Oh, God, it's phenomenal.
That is on the bucket list.
For sure. It is indeed.
Now, I was just having a quick read about the updates for the TV series because I think whilst we're kind of on that topic, and because this is probably one of the chapters that, or the last two chapters, Norbert and Forbidden Forest, where a lot of the material was cut out, I just wanted to kind of see how HBO have reported in terms of actually what they're going to do for each episode or each series, and whether they've stuck to that initial comment on it would run through 7 seasons, 7 books.
Okay, fair.
They've later stated it would be a decade-long series.
Okay.
So it means a single season may dive into even more details without the confines of an individual title.
What does that mean?
I'm really hoping it doesn't mean what we've just talked about, where they're putting in more fluff and
Yeah, so the only thing that I can possibly think about that is we had said in a previous episode when we discussed about this that we would ideally like it to be a chapter per episode because you have more than enough material. And for example, just looking here, the last chapter in Order of the Phoenix, which is the longest book, is chapter 38. So that's 38 episodes worth in one book. So possibilities are endless.
I think this is what I was talking about the other day in regards to this. Was my only concern is if they did one book per season, is most TV shows now are licensed for 10 episodes.
Yeah.
So if you did an episode or a book per series, or season, sorry, if you did a book per season, you would be limited to 10 episodes. So that's fine when you have like the Philosopher's Stone, where you have 17 chapters.
Yeah.
You're condensing 7 chapters. Whereas, like you said, with the Order of Phoenix, how many chapters were there?
38.
So you're condensing down 28 chapters.
Yeah. But then again, if you look at like a season of Casualty, that's got like 100 odd episodes per season. If I'm being honest, well, I'm just pissing into the wind.
Me too.
I'm just pissing into the wind. Right, back to this book.
Back to this book. So the guys then get a note left on their breakfast table So this is their detention letter. Detention has finally rocked around. They are to meet Mr. Filch at the entrance hall at 11 o'clock tonight. Now, for punishment of being out of bed late and after curfew, what is your detention? Being out of bed after curfew?
Not just out of bed after curfew, into the forbidden forest.
Like, does detention just doesn't care about rules anymore? Like,
No. And as well, this is another thing that I have just thought about. They have sent these 4 children. Yeah. Was it 4? Yeah, 4 children into this forest with a man who cannot use magic legally. He has received a second or third year Hogwarts education. And as far as we are aware, all that man brought in to the forest with him was a crossbow and not a wand. That pink umbrella stayed firmly by his fireplace.
and as we know, what is actually in that forbidden forest, the reassuring words of Hagrid, there's nothing that lives in the forest that will hurt you with me or Fang.
Oh, that's smashing.
That's reassuring.
Very much so. Considering the fact that they then split up the children.
Honestly, it's just like, okay, so you've literally just said nothing will hurt you as long as you're with me, so we're going to split up.
Yeah, so like I'll take Hermione, Neville, and I'll go and have a look for this unicorn. And Harry and Draco, you go with Fang.
See ya, bye.
Bye. And correct me if I'm wrong. We know that Harry did not cast a single spell in that movie. Did Draco? Because I don't think he did.
No.
Oh, with the exception of the leg locker curse, but that's in a deleted scene and we never got to see it.
And it's technically in the book, so he does technically use it. He does technically use it.
But in the nicest possible way, a leg locker curse against a floating Voldemort. Hello.
Well, I mean, good try. Good try, Draco. Good try.
Good try. Anywho, so Mr. Filch, he heroically leads them to their doom, essentially. But you, even though we know that Mr. Filch is a bit of a cretin and a very sketchy one at that, we then sort of get to see the fact of just how vindictive he is, because it says that the old punishments died out and he was very upset by that. Back in the day, they would hang you by your wrist from the ceiling for a few days, and he himself has still got the chains in his office, and quote unquote, he keeps them well oiled in case they're ever needed.
I'm sorry, how old is Filch?
I don't know, but you could get done for that.
Literally.
You could get done for that. It's given Jimmy Savile.
Corporate punishment. Like,
it is giving. Yeah. I'm sure there would have been an inquiry into his actions.
Ofsted would be closing this place down the minute they caught wind of Filch.
Filch is definitely a nonce. Anywho.
So Harry suddenly gets a glimmer of hope that his detention will be spent with Hagrid, only to be doused by the thought that they will be going into the Forbidden Forest because something is murdering unicorns.
Who or what could be killing something so pure?
Well, Malfoy seems to be stuck on the fact that it's obviously a werewolf.
I mean, technically he's not wrong. He's just 2 years out.
Exactly. I mean, he's not too far off. Maybe Lupin got a time turner.
I mean, I really don't see Professor Lupin killing a unicorn, even in werewolf form without Wolfsbane potion. Yeah, I just don't see it.
I don't see it. And like Hagrid says, unicorns are too quick, too smart, and able to defend themselves against things like werewolves anyway.
Right, here's a question for you, a little trivia question, which I actually didn't know the answer to until I read it the other night. Do you know what colour baby unicorns are?
They're golden.
I did not know that.
someone hasn't been paying enough attention to Hogwarts legacy.
Are they gold in that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's how much detail they've put into the game, is the fact that a baby unicorn comes out gold.
I don't know if I ever read them in my aviary.
You should. Baby unicorns are so cute.
Yeah. Saying that, I got a new TV not that long ago, and I've just not managed to put the HDMI cable from the PlayStation to the TV. At this stage, I probably need about 10 builders to come in, because knowing me, I will drop the thing.
In terms of this detention, then, they went into the forest, and as we said, Hagrid goes from, oh, by the way, there are things that will kill you, but as long as you're with me, it's fine. So you guys can go that way, I'm going to go this way. He sends Malfoy and Neville off with Fang, and he takes Harry and Hermione with him. Clearly favouritism.
100%.
Interestingly, though, I don't know whether you picked up on this about the green and red sparks.
I'm just looking at that now. I did pick up on that.
So, obviously, we know from the Goblet of Fire films about sending red sparks up with wands. This is a complete, this is where it starts. Sending green or red sparks up with your wands.
Yeah.
So this is something even first years doing. It's so cute. It's okay, we've got little tidbits of what we know from future films.
Yeah.
So they're going along, and then suddenly, I would probably say it's not even been 10 minutes, when suddenly they find a rustling sound and are greeted by none other than a centaur.
A dogger.
Hogsmeade's kicking out time.
I know, literally.
No, AJ, not that.
Nor.
Another beast.
Beast!
It is a centaur.
Aww.
But not the centaur that we all know.
No. When it comes to the centaurs, I would ideally would have liked to have kept that scene in about the other centaurs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That came in. I loved Firenze in the movie. I absolutely did. But justice for centaurs, because I really wanted to see the divide.
Mm.
I wanted to see both sides of that coin, because up until I say up until throughout the whole movie, I get this image that the centaurs are actually a very peaceful people, but we know that they're not.
Mm.
They're very territorial.
But
we only really get to see them twice.
There's nothing really in the films about the centaurs. We see them in the fifth film with Umbridge, and we see Firenze in the first film. But we don't get this kind of... So, like you said, they're very territorial, but they're very grounded in... I say grounded. They're grounded in astrology.
Yeah.
And that's their main aspect, which then obviously will later come into when we talk about Firenze becoming a teacher.
I've just got this image of if the centaurs had access to Instagram or TikTok, I guarantee they would be like rose quartz crystal girlies that you see. Do you know what I mean?
Having their sprigs around a candle, lighting the black candle.
Yeah, pretty much. They would be like, so I've got a water bottle that's infused with a rose quartz crystal. It's very soothing. It's very cleansing. All of that. It's all very nice. Good energy, good vibes. Nothing negative in the forest. We're at one with nature.
They would definitely be that girl.
Uh-huh.
So it's interesting that we only get to see Firenze in the film, whereas actually we get to meet 3 of the main centaurs that we will come across during the books. So we get to meet Ronan, Bane, and Firenze.
Yeah. Lads.
We get to meet Ronan first, who, when Hagrid asks about the unicorn, suddenly goes about Mars is unusually bright. That's a bit of a weird response.
Just a tad.
And no matter how much Hagrid probes or asks, its continuous response is about Mars being bright. Now,
Yeah.
I did do a bit of a Google as to kind of what that meant. And I don't know whether you know what the kind of hidden meaning behind that is.
I do. It means that Starlink was out. And what Firenze, Bane, and Ronan actually seen was a satellite. It was just Hogwarts getting down with the Wi-Fi. Tell me, what does it actually mean?
So Mars is the Roman god of war. So that is then the link between kind of the planet Mars and then the Roman mythology. So what they're referring to is war is kind of on the doorstep. So whether or not they are meaning the 7th book, or because the thing is, when you look at the Centaurs, I get very much elvish vibes from them, where it's like we live for thousands of years and like everyone like what?
I thought you said Elvis vibes.
No.
Oh. Yeah, so they lived for thousands of years. Elvis did not.
No, elvish vibes. So I kind of get that feeling that to them, on the doorstep or imminently is in the next 100 years kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're talking about Mars being bright, they could be referring to what is going to happen in the Deathly Hallows.
Yeah.
And this is almost the start of that war.
Mm-hmm.
So Hagrid, getting a bit kind of peeved with them, finds that both Bane and Ronan are not really answering his question. They're not being much help, and decides to kind of carry on searching the forest, only to be disturbed by red sparks being sent up by Malfoy and Neville, only for Hagrid to return absolutely peeved at the fact that it was Malfoy scaring Neville and Neville getting scared and asking for help, thinking he is about to be attacked.
Oh,
so
God love him.
We end up with the pairing that we then know in the films, which is Malfoy and Harry being divvied up.
Yeah.
Only to then come across the dead unicorn.
Da, da, da. Here's a question. Would you drink unicorn blood?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't risk it.
I wonder if they use it in potions. Because I know they only use the unicorn hair and the unicorn horn. But I wonder if there is a potion whereby you can use unicorn blood. Something like the elixir of life.
There probably is, and I think it still comes with the same downsides of being a cursed potion.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I imagine it'll be like in most potent potions or something like that. But then again, who would actively go and kill a unicorn unless for evil purposes? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Now, I think the movies did this part of the book justice. I think this idea of having something cloaked, mysterious, drinking unicorn's blood, and that pan up from the character with the unicorn blood dripping down its face. Perfect. What I had in my head when I read this.
Yeah, I absolutely love the depiction of that. But it sort of begs a question for me. Who was actually drinking the unicorn blood? Was it Quirrell or was it Voldemort?
See, I have the same thought. I don't know whether it's like Quirrell's kind of like up backwards and like facing the hood, and it's Voldemort then drinking, or
Yeah, it's like he's went very like double jointed.
yeah. Well, this is the thing, because like when he's walking, like it's very much the hands are the correct way round. So I don't know whether it is. Like,
I know.
I want to know the anatomy of how that connection works, because there's obviously like a connection to airway for him to have a voice.
Yeah, I need a full body MRI.
Yeah, I need to know where the connections are. Does he have a gullet? Does he have like an esophagus?
Yeah,
So
I need to know.
these are the questions that we need. So obviously, Harry then has his scar burning for the very first time, and Firenze comes to the rescue, only to offer his mane as a ride back out of the forest, to then be told off by Bane. So this is where a lot of the stuff with Centaurs gets overlooked in the films, whereas the Centaurs are above humans, where they aren't reduced to common horses. Whereas Firenze believes in a bit more equality of actually, no, it's just helping someone out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we realised that it was actually Voldemort who was the one who was killing the unicorns.
I think Ron then tries to interpret what Bane was furious. He was interfering what the planets were going to happen. They must have shown that Voldemort's coming back. So they try and kind of piece together kind of what they were talking about. And Harry just goes, oh, well, probably should let Voldemort kill me then.
Yeah.
Not to put spoilers or anything. Jeez, Harry.
I know.
Well, it's written in the stars. Well, clearly it is, as we know.
Yeah, quite literally.
Only to find that, Harry, everyone says Dumbledore's the only one you know who ever feared. With Dumbledore around, you know who won't touch you.
So, like, nice little bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think actually all of this kind of pulls together. It's all of these little subtle hints. When they end the day, Harry finds that his invisibility cloak has been folded neatly underneath them with a note saying, just in case.
Who put that back there? Was it Dumbledore? It must have been.
It must have been.
I don't imagine it was Filch doing his rounds and finding it. Do you know what I mean?
So it's interesting, if there's a note that says just in case, surely Dumbledore has a plan that Harry, Ron and Hermione are going to pursue going into the trapdoor. Why would he bother giving the invisibility cloak back?
But then again, on the other hand, why would they bother giving it to them in the first place?
Yeah. He's clearly got ulterior motives to get them involved.
Concerned.
Dumbledore's just there. It's like a Blade Channis Will video. It's like Dumbledore's sitting in the back, kind of like stirring the bloody pot.
She was like, the cup is mine. I adore it so much.
It's so
Well,
good.
with that is the end of the chapter.
Yes, so we'll quickly go through our results from our last question, which was about which dragon would you have and what name would you give it? So we had Whimsical Wizarding saying that they would want an Antipodine? Opali. Whimsical Wizarding didn't know what to call them. Jazzy, she wanted an Opali as well and calling it Luna, which I thought was quite a nice little ring to it.
Oh, that's quite nice.
You then had the real Margaret, who was...
Is that the real Margaret Ann?
That is your favourite.
Yeah. Big up Harvard. Woo!
She wanted a Chinese fireball, calling it Big Red.
Nice.
I love this, and the walkout song, as if it's like in a like WWF like arena, would be Fireball by Pitbull.
Very nice. Nice touch.
Love it. We had White Noise saying that he would have a Welsh green, calling Maeve. And then Greg also commenting on it, saying that he would also have a Welsh green, calling it either Gwen or Nessa.
Nice Gavin and Stacey vibes there.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much, guys, for all those. They were really, really interesting responses. So with that in mind, next week we are going to be continuing our series on the Weasleys, and we're going to be talking about all 7 of the Weasley children.
Hopefully we won't get wrapped into like an hour-long conversation about 2 of them.
Well, we shall see. That's the plan. That is the plan, but we shall see going forward.
It's part 2. Let's see how we go.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yes, thank you, AJ, for this episode. And we will be back next week with the Weasley family tree. So, thank you guys so much for listening, as always. And keep your radios tuned in for next week's episode. If you haven't already, make sure to favourite our podcast wherever you cast your pods, or subscribe down below to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode or see our lovely faces every week.
Hey.
And if you are on YouTube, click on one of these 2 episodes to go back and rewatch any of the other podcasts you might have missed.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I'm going to say to you, Cherry Bubbles.
Kindest regards.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.